Here in Washington, it has been a historic day for Keir Starmer, meeting Donald Trump at the White House for the very first time. And he started off the day with hours of preparation for some of these meetings. He then went on to the Oval Office, where the pair appeared to get on incredibly well. And here's how the day unfolded. We can just see behind us the US and the UK flags, the officials preparing for the imminent arrival of Keir Starmer, and Donald Trump in the building behind us is going to greet him as he arrives on the White House lawn. Here we go. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's car arriving at the White House. You can see the American flag, the British flag on the front of that car.
President Trump, can you get a peace deal done in Ukraine? How confident are you, sir?
So Keir Starmer has just gone in the door, just behind me. Donald Trump actually came out to meet him. That was not something that he afforded to the French President Emmanuel Macron when he came earlier this week. So potentially a sign of that very special relationship in action.
It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Starmer in the Oval Office. It's a very special place, and he's a special man. And the United Kingdom is a wonderful country that I know very well. I'm there a lot.
And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter, bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yep.
I will.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman.
Well, that historic conversation between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump in the Oval Office just behind me has just finished. And I think really it couldn't have gone better for number 10. Really incredibly warm words coming out of the mouth of the President of the United States. And Starmer the Charmer had a trump card really up his sleeve. He came out with a letter from the King that he pulled out of his pocket and gave directly to the President. He sat there and read it with some incredibly warm words coming back from President Trump, saying that he would be delighted to make a historic second state visit to the United Kingdom, that he probably will be visiting Windsor Castle at some point, and he would be delighted to meet again with His Majesty the King. Also on the Chagos Islands deal, that was something that I did not expect to hear Donald Trump be so warm and welcoming. We know that it's going to cost potentially the taxpayer up to £18 billion. It's incredibly controversial back in Britain. We thought that Donald Trump might not like it, and David Lammy said earlier this week that if he doesn't, it could be kibosh completely. But Donald Trump just a few minutes ago, pretty complimentary about that deal, saying that he did think it was going to be done. Also interesting to note that he actually used the word backstop. That is Keir Starmer's language. He wanted the US to guarantee some sort of security pact if British troops and French troops go on the ground in Ukraine. Now, Donald Trump has previously not committed to any sort of military aid and military support for Ukraine going forward, but that sounded to me like a conversation is going to be on the cards, and that could potentially mean that this peacekeeping troop deal could get off the ground.
Go ahead. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, Natasha Clark from LBC. Mr. President, you've said you're working on a new trade deal with Britain, which we of course welcome. President Obama once said Britain was at the back of the queue for that trade deal. Where are we now? When do you think we're going to see that? And Prime Minister, the BBC has today admitted serious flaws over the recent Gaza coverage, suggestions of payments made to people linked to Hamas. Does the BBC still have your trust? Thank you.
Well, they didn't do well with President Obama. He'd never got a lot of things done, and he didn't get a trade deal done that was of any importance or magnitude. We've had great discussions on trade, and I think we're going to have a deal done rather quickly as it can be done. We're going to have something, I think, rather quickly. We expect to do that. Okay? Please.
On the BBC, look, I've been concerned about the programme in question. The Secretary of State had a meeting with the BBC. I think it was yesterday, it could have been the day before. Thank you.
We're here in the East Room. We've just come out of that historic press conference between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. And I think number 10 will be absolutely delighted with how that went. And I wanted to ask him about the really big news that we were not expecting from this press conference, that the UK and the US have restarted trade talks. Now, that was something that was put on pause by the previous administration, and now Donald Trump and Keir Starmer making that happen once again. I also wanted to ask the Prime Minister about the news that we've had today about the BBC and that Gaza documentary. He said he was very concerned to see today's news, but lots and lots of news points coming out of this meeting. And I think that Donald Trump and Keir Starmer, I think it's fair to say, clearly have a good relationship. The pair clearly get on. They clearly have had a lot to talk about. I think the best moment for me was watching Donald Trump say that Keir Starmer is worth every penny that we British taxpayers pay for him, because he was working so hard to negotiate a carve-out deal for any potential tariffs that the US president may be preparing to put on Britain. Keir Starmer couldn't help but smile as Donald Trump was pretty lavishing praise on both him and the royal family. Of course, we knew that Keir Starmer came here today with an invitation from the King in his pocket. He wanted to offer a historic second state visit to Donald Trump, and he today said he was absolutely delighted to accept that. Keir Starmer will be going back to the UK, I think, with a smile on his face after what has been generally a really, really good day of talks. And obviously, like I say, there is still a lot of work to be done on that Ukraine deal, on that peace agreement. The president said he wanted to see a ceasefire in Ukraine as soon as possible, but he was confident that the two really big deals could be done, a US trade deal and hopefully a peace deal for Ukraine too.